The eagle has landed, and it is time for another episode of A Little Off the Top with your hosts,
Hannah
and Noah. So great to be here. I guess the eagle has landed is a thing I'm saying now at the end of our...
I guess so.
I've done it for 4 episodes now, so I guess it's going to stay that way. Anyway, we're back with another episode. How many are we up to now? 6, 7?
Yeah, I guess so.
Of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
In a new location. We are mobile.
We are.
We are completely set up in a brand new place with new guests. I don't know what else to say with that. We don't have a lot of an intro section, do we?
No.
I guess we should just get to the meat of the episode.
Yeah.
All right. Then I need to do this. We're gonna sit and talk to the sky. We're gonna sit and talk for a little while. It's time to get to know somebody. Yeah. All right. Well, it is time to get to know somebody. We've got 2 people on for this one.
We got a husband and wife team.
Yeah. We have not done it where we had more than one person in our Today We Get to Know format, but today we have the Doyles. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, friends. My name is Jimmy Doyle, and I'm married to
Chazlet Doyle.
That's right.
They're just as cute as their voices.
if not cuter.
We are here today with them. They have been a great connection for us while we've been here in the Cuse. They were supposed to be Team Cuse on the first episode of Top Cuts Trivia. They are the ones who got cut out of nowhere, but they will be back. We will have another episode of Top Cuts Trivia. We're turning it into a small tournament, and that's exciting as well. But how are y'all doing today?
Well, besides recovering from being cut out from the last podcast I was on.
I know. There's a lot of mourning from that.
Yeah. Great day. Great to be with you.
Yeah, we're excited.
Nice. So this is a pretty loose format. We're gonna chat. We're gonna get to know y'all.
Y'all.
Yes, y'all. We're gonna get to know y'all, and we're gonna just talk about both of your lives separately and together, and kind of your life and how you met and all those things. We were thinking about doing a new segment called, what did I say it was going to be called? His and Her Stories, where we talk about that type of stuff. So maybe I'll make a bumper and cut the middle of this and throw that in there, and you'll be the first person on that as well. So a lot of firsts here for us.
Oh, fun.
But, the way that I like to start it is, either one of you can go first, but just give me a little bit of your story, like where it all started and all those good things. So how about ladies first? Or no?
I'll go.
Sure.
So I grew up here in Syracuse. I was born in San Antonio, but I only really remember here Syracuse. And loved being here. And after I graduated high school, I went to Bible school just a little bit west of here at Elam Bible Institute, and was working on staff there for a little bit at the local church, and then got hired as a full-time youth director down in Bradenton, Florida, which is where I went and met the love of my life, Chazlet Doyle, and
so cute.
All I've really ever known is Syracuse. It's funny because I always told God I'd be willing to go anywhere, and then He sent me to Florida. And then never in a million years would I imagine I'd be back full-time doing ministry in Syracuse, where I grew up. I figured I'd always be someplace else, but here I am.
If you could sum up Syracuse in a short way to someone, what would you say? I'll just leave it there.
I guess if Syracuse had to get a short little title, I would name it the frozen tundra. You guys were lucky enough to not get here during any of the cold parts, but it's when I was down in Florida, they always talk about Florida has 2 seasons, hot and hotter.
It's true.
In upstate New York, the north has 4 seasons, but it's like 1 month of summer, 1 month of spring, 1 month of fall, and the rest is winter. So that's kind of the I think what it's known for. Unfortunately, I think that rubs off on the people because the people tend to be grumpy and frowny, and you throw a new church down south somewhere, and you have a mega church in a couple months.
Sure.
Here, we've been plowing soil for years, and still feels like more people hate us than love us.
Recently, we were in men's group this past weekend, and you mentioned something about that, and somebody said, "Yeah, I think most of everywhere else, but Syracuse. For the most part, I think Syracuse is pretty nice." And he's like, "What do you think, Noah?" And I was like, "How do I put this in the most diplomatic way to someone who definitely has lived here their entire lives?"
Just go visit somewhere for a little bit. Just a day even.
You definitely didn't give them any truth. You totally tickled their ears.
Yeah. I tried to be as nice as possible. I said, the people from the church are really nice. That's pretty much how I put it.
And it's taken us 8 years to get them that way.
Well, the church, we'll get into that, but it's been very special to us while we've been here. Chazza, what about you?
I have a little bit different of a story.
Right.
I grew up on the circus, like not metaphorically, but like for real, a traveling circus. So I started off at Great American and then Big Apple. And so I grew up traveling as a youngster, and all my family is still in it, really, until COVID. But that's another story.
Right.
But I guess I'd call home base Sarasota, Florida, which is just south of Bradenton, where I met my husband. That's where I went to school, though, when I stopped traveling. And then I went to Miami for college. And then after that, I went back home just to take care of my dad. My dad was living in Sarasota while he was getting some surgeries and things like that. So I needed to go home and take care of him. And that's where I met Jimmy. So I just went to the church closest to me, to the home, just so I could be there for my dad if I ever needed it, like to be an emergency.
Right.
I was trying to be a really good daughter. So that's where I met him, and then he brought me here. End of story. This is our forever home. We definitely would not choose this place, so we're definitely called to be here in Syracuse, New York. And we have 4 beautiful children now, Justice, Augustine, Chazare, and Litley. Those are our bread and butter for everything that we do. But
you never want to bring a Florida girl permanently up to the north because her first time driving in the snow, oh my goodness, she just pulled over and started crying.
It was awful.
I feel like that's how Noah felt coming from Louisiana, where there is no snow, and if there is snow, it lasts for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
To Nebraska when it had the first big snow. I'm sure he was not a very happy camper.
Mm-mm.
Well, even
even in North Carolina,
yeah.
because we would get snow and it sticks around for a long time. And he's like, "Does the snow ever melt?"
Right. That was my thing. Was like, I was used to even where I lived before moving to where home is for us. Even there, if it snowed, it was gone within a couple of days at the most. Because it was more towards the coastal part of North Carolina. And so I moved there, and I'm like, "Oh, it snowed. It'll be okay though. It'll melt pretty quickly." And then it was just there for days and days and days,
weeks, and then months, and it seems like years, and it just doesn't go away.
Yeah, that's how I felt whenever we were in Nebraska as well. We'll talk a little bit about travels and stuff like that as we go on, but
you got to know that Sarasota is circus country, home base, because here. You have electives like, drama club, choir. Down there, they have electives that are circus related. Like you can take as an elective.
Really?
You can
I had
take
no idea.
circus and performing arts and like trapeze and all sorts of different things.
So what was your family's act?
So my dad's side of the family were a juggling act. And then after that, my dad went into management. So they did juggling, and then my brother was in trapeze, and not my brother, but my brother's at the time, the person he was with, did trapeze and things like that. So I did unicycle, and it is what it is. So cool. But yeah, my dad's side of the family all did juggling, and then he went into management. So
That
Then
is so
we
cool.
started dating. I had not been to the circus more times than when we started dating. And in that short span, that year, I think we were dating. We must have gone like 6 times. I think I could count in my entire life up to that point.
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
2
absolutely.
or 3 times.
So, what ages were you guys when you first met?
I
Remember?
was 21.
And I was, probably 24, 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So did you meet at church? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Is that when you told me that he was playing bass up on stage?
He played bass. He still plays bass now, but but yeah, he played bass. And then when I was there, I was helping out with the children's ministry, and we started like an after-school program. And he was the youth director at the time, or youth pastor at the time, and they had like a cafe and stuff. And so I would connect with him and be like, "Hey, do you think I could use your cafe to help feed these hundreds of kids that are coming for our after-school tutoring program?" And he was like, "Sure." And so that's kind of.
Are you going to be there? Then sure.
So he just helped me out to feed all of those kids for after school, and then I stepped in for like interim as they were trying to find a new kids director, and so I would be like, "Hey, can you help me with like the message that I'm going to give on Sunday? Because I really don't know what I'm doing." And so he would connect with me and help me, but yeah, I still remember it. I was the 99. That was like my very first message that, the 99 and God
Right.
go
Yeah.
after the one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the very first message or sermon or whatever that I ever gave or
Yeah.
did in kids ministry. I mean, I was an educator. I speak in front of kids all the time, so that
Right.
wasn't anything new for me.
Right.
But in a church setting, I
Yeah,
just felt like I
it's
had
different.
a bigger responsibility, like
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that you're really speaking to a little person's life, like their soul, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But he came to the rescue. So yeah, that's where it started.
That's so cute. Jimmy's just over here nodding his head.
Going
Yep.
strong. Still happening.
So how long have you been together? How long have you been married?
This year's going to be 15.
15.
The big 1-5.
Nice.
I think that's a something, right? It's like a wood end or a silver, gold, something.
No,
What is?
I think 10, and then it goes to like 25.
It skips 15.
Yeah.
Does it skip 15? I have the internet here. It can-
Let's check with the producers.
All right. Let's
Yeah,
check with
I
the
think it's
producers.
like 10 is like
I
a
feel
woo,
like
a big
every
deal.
5 years has got to be
And
something.
then like 25 is like a milestone.
Yeah.
And then 50.
I don't know. I feel like you should celebrate at least every 5.
I say
You're right.
we should just celebrate every single day.
Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
I love you. No.
Crystal. The 15th anniversary is Crystal.
See, I knew it. Crystal.
And we mean that quite literally, as you'll be celebrating this anniversary with the traditional gift of crystal, symbolizing the clarity and sparkle in your marriage. Crystal also refracts light into stunning spectrums that symbolize all the beautiful facets of your relationship.
All right, everybody hear that? We want crystal for our 50. No, I don't. I don't want any crystal.
and that's why we pay the producer so much money.
That's right.
Mr. Johnny on the spot there.
I was getting ready to say with kids, I don't know if crystal
Yeah, no.
is a good
No.
choice.
We'll pass. We'll pass.
So to go back a little bit, I'd like to hear a little bit about your kind of when we talked with Keenan, we kind of got a little bit of his story, as in like his coming to faith and stuff like that. So I'd love to hear a little bit of that from both of you. You don't have to go deep into detail. Some people have a short and sweet one, some people don't. But I'd like to hear a little bit of that at least. So,
I mean, I grew up with a Christian family, so it was kind of to be expected that was going to be something, that you participated in. But I can remember a couple of different meaningful moments throughout my childhood growing up. The first one was, Sunday school at a church. The offering was, hey, anybody want to accept Jesus into your heart? And if you do, we have these fun little toys we're going to give you,
Oh, yeah.
right? So like, ching, hand up, right?
Absolutely.
That's a no-brainer.
give me the toy.
Yeah, I can handle that. So that's the first time I ever making a decision. Unfortunately, not based on any kind of
Here's your
recognition
toy.
of morality or how I was living. But my family would go to this Christian music festival every summer. It was always around my birthday, called Kingdom Bound. It's about 2.5 hour away theme park that would be a 3-4 day music festival.
That's cool.
And we went every year and just enjoyed it, had lots of fun. I just remember one year before a Carmen concert. I don't know if anybody out there remembers Carmen.
Carmen.
But it was a guy got up to speak, and I don't remember his name. I don't remember what he said, but it's for the first time I remember feeling like this needed to be a decision I was making for me, and just feeling overcome with emotion. And I was with friends, and friends who the last thing on their mind was wanting to pursue Jesus, or we were just there to try to get attention from girls. And I went forward and did the whole thing, talked to a person, and accepted Jesus into my heart, as it were. Decided I wanted to live for him. I still had a series of years of rebellion and whatnot after that, but I've having grown up in a Christian home, having had those experiences, I think I just felt like I've always believed in Jesus, never doubted, just had periods of my life where I didn't really care what he wanted me to do and just wanted to do what I wanted to do.
Sure, yeah,
Didn't
absolutely.
really play much into it. And then after those years of rebellion, just felt a strong calling to be in ministry, and that's why I went to Bible school. And there was no dramatic moment again after that, just ready to follow God and give him my life.
Yeah, I think some people definitely have the dramatic moment of like the eyes are opened, and like somebody comes to them that they don't know, and they're like, you're called to be a pastor. But I think a lot more common is the just feeling in their heart that's like, oh, this is what I'm. You have a moment where you're doing ministry, or someone's talking to you about it, and you're like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. I know, for me, I was driving home from student teaching one day, and I had like a 40-minute drive to my apartment, and so I'm just driving along kind of mindlessly, and then my brain was kind of like, this isn't what you're supposed to do for your whole life. And so I called my aunt, and I was like, I think I need to go to seminary. I think I'm called to ministry. And she was just like, I'm glad you finally figured it out, type of thing. Just like,
you're the last one to see it, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's much more common, and I think it's really easy in the church. We get this idea of like, you gotta speak it over somebody, and it's not. It can be that there are moments like that, but it's not the
That's not the formula that you have to plug in.
Right. It's not the
There
light
really isn't a
blinding
formula.
Paul and,
No.
and
Right.
turning him from Saul to Paul. Anyway.
Yeah, that's the beauty of ministry. There is no formula.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true. What about you, Chadlin?
I'm a little bit different.
Yeah.
Was not raised in a Christian home. We did have a Catholic priest though that would visit circuses. Just so you guys know.
Okay.
It's a thing. There's a circus priest, and even at my dad's funeral, he was there.
Wow.
And the robe is really cool. It has like appliques of like different circus acts on it. It's really pretty.
That's
It's
cool.
actually like kind of like a kind of thing, like when he walks in, like when you think of like the Catholic Church. But anyway, no, I was not raised in a Christian home. My mom was the one buying the alcohol and drugs for parties, or at least allowing me to. When I was in high school, I was invited to church by a football player. Yes, very cliche. And I went to church and never stopped going. So I was either a freshman, probably the end of my freshman year of high school. And during that time, my mom noticed that there was something different, and she told me I couldn't go to church anymore. I wasn't allowed to hang out with my Christian friends. So my senior year, which is really my junior year, I finished high school in 3 years. So I just kind of partied a lot.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't allowed to go to church anymore. But during the short time that I was going to church, like I sang, I was in the choir, and I participated in youth group, and I went to camp once, which I'm surprised I was even allowed to go. I don't think she really understood what I was doing anyway. My mom, on a side note, she has a disease called Huntington's, which is a slow deterioration of the brain. And in a nutshell, there's a lot more to it, but in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Right.
And so that was kind of like coming to head too during that time. And so it was just a really hard time for me because I had to grow up really fast. Like I pretty much had to take care of her. And if I wasn't taking care of her, I was running away from her. So, so my senior year was a little rough. And then I went off to college. And when I went off to college, I partied a lot. And I would go to church, but it was because it was something that I knew I needed to do, but I didn't really like know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that that's what I was supposed to do
Mm-hmm.
because my mom wasn't there to tell me that I couldn't. So I know that's kind of sounds weird. Yay, I'm skipping to go to church. It was kind of weird. But yeah, so I got plugged into University Baptist Church in Miami, Florida, and a woman named by Blanca Correa Esperes took me kind of under her wing when I started student teaching. She was the vice principal there, and I started going to a Bible study at her house. And I was young. I was only 20. I graduated high school or college when I was 20. So she might not even know this, how impactful she was to that point of my life, because I could have gone down a very, very dark path.
Yeah.
I was in Miami, so everything was really accessible, drugs and all of that. So
Free meals.
Free meals, yes. My husband, I would go on dates to feed myself. Yeah. So Miami's a really big place, so you could go on dates with lots of different people and nobody really knows.
Right,
So I would go on dates to feed myself because I would just eat the half of it and then save the other half for lunch the next day.
Yeah.
But that's kind of life I was living. I was living on the edge. But then when my mom went missing for a long time because of the disease. I say because her brain was gone.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know. So I'd get calls saying that she was committed or trying to commit suicide, and I was like, "Is she alive? Okay, great." It kind of just didn't hit home anymore
Right.
because of the damage she did to me emotionally. So,
Okay.
so I moved back to Sarasota to take care of my dad, and seeing my dad like that, I was like, I know that I need God in my life.
Yeah.
So I accepted Jesus and knew who Jesus was and had a relationship with him when I was in high school, but it wasn't like real even really until then. Like, I knew who God was and I knew that I should be doing this thing, but it didn't really like become my life or my lifestyle or what I believed really until I was 20. So that was, and then I met him like really shortly after that.
This is when she saw me. She's like, "Whoa, there must be a God. This is real."
But yeah, so then, so that was just really when I really gave myself over to God was right after that. And then not even a year later, my dad was murdered by my mom. And that just kind of was like, great. Okay. I start following you and doing things and you just really suck right now. You know? And so I was really mad at God for not a long time, but enough to just to like take a pause.
Yeah.
You know? And just be like, not too sure. I mean, I didn't break off our engagement. We just put a pause kind of on our relationship. And I went to Kenya.
We got back together.
Just yeah. I jumped ship and moved to Kenya for a little bit, and just really, I didn't know the organization.
Wow, that's really jumping
Yeah,
ship.
no, I was like
Probably a few ships.
and an airplane and but yeah, I needed to, in our circles where we were at, and nothing against the church. It did bring some church hate to it, you know, just because they felt like I wasn't healing fast enough or something was wrong with me or whatever. But that's okay. But I needed to be in a place with people that could understand what I was going through. And in our church circles at the time, just weren't accepting of what had happened.
Sure.
And it was really hard. So I at that time, the internet was like kind of cool, you know, and I just Googled the organization and was like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I'm not coming to be a missionary. I really am kind of even mad at God, but will you take me in? And they said yes. And I got on a plane and went to Africa with people I didn't know.
Wow.
That's wild.
But yeah, it was a little, probably, I don't know how he felt, but I was just like, get me out of here.
Was that a little terrifying?
Well,
I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it kind of put things in a weird position. The only way we could talk was if I purchased these, phone cards back in the day. We had
Yep.
before they came out with a lot of these communications over the internet. We had to buy phone cards to be able to talk and be able to get at the right time. And she came back. Her hair was all braided and in dreads and in this little African garb. And I'm like, oh boy, what happened?
I really not going off the deep end, but I was all in. I was all in.
You're fully immersed.
Exactly. So when I was there, I saw poverty at the most extreme. I lived with no running water. I had to walk a long way just to get water.
Right.
And at that time, a Kikuyu was voted into what we would call our president. And that was just not welcomed in Kenya at the time. And so a lot of the Kikuyu tribes were being targeted. And I was staying with a Kikuyu tribe. So I just saw a lot that I wouldn't have seen here in the States for me to be like, I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah.
What I have, I am blessed. Even though what happened in my life stunk and was awful, and it's still awful.
Right.
I'm going to be okay because there was so much joy in the orphanage that I was staying at, and a little girl named Joy and Justice Joy, our daughter, just brought life back into me. She would just hold my cheeks and just say, I love you, Mazungu. That's what they call people who are white. And she would just hold me. And her eyes, I can see them now, like they just brought life and joy just back into my own life. And I was like, okay, now it's time for me to go home back to running water and things that I enjoy. So yeah, so I came back and things weren't great, I mean, it was awful. I just said, peace, I need to go heal myself and come back. And it took a long time, for us to go and get counseling and just make sure that, we are whole ourselves, before we get into a marriage. And, but we stuck it out, even though there was lots against us, a lot.
We made it to Crystal, though.
That's right. You've made it to Crystal.
Don't give us any Crystal.
Bring on the Crystal.
But yeah, so that's it in a nutshell.
I guess me holding off on giving you my number for a while isn't too bad now, right?
No. You didn't leave the country.
That's true. I did not. I guess you guys don't know this. We met online first. That was how we met. We met online.
It was 2020. There wasn't a whole lot of ways to meet people
That's true.
besides
And so
online dating apps.
She was actually one of the first matches I made on there, and the only person I was really talking to consistently. And I said to her, I was like, I don't want to keep this app because I really enjoyed talking to you. So I was like, will you text me on Snapchat? And she's like, yeah, sure. And it was because...
Which was terrifying because Snapchat's not normally used that way.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was just because I'm
So
weird.
when you're saying it's because you don't want to keep the app, it's because you don't want to pay for it.
No, it was free.
Oh, it's free.
It was free
Okay.
app. It was free app. Shout out Upward. I think that she and I should be on a commercial for it because we're a success story for a Christian dating app. But anyway,
I mean, we just celebrated 3 years.
That's right, we did.
Woo, woo.
But
Copper. I think it's copper.
is it copper? Everybody give us pennies. They'll add up. But anyway, so we texted through that for quite a while, and then for I guess a couple of months. And then finally I gave her my number, and then it just took off from there. Like,
and once you gave me your number, I think either that night or the next night, I was like, let's have a video call.
Yeah.
Aww.
And then
it lasted for 2 hours. I remember looking down and seeing how late it was and knowing that I needed to work the next day. And I was like, how has 2 hours passed? Because there was never any awkward pauses. There was no weirdness to it or whatnot. It was just like talking to my best friend.
Yeah. We moved very quickly after that, I guess. But also she was,
I was 29.
29, I was 27. I was about to graduate with my master's degree. It was kind of like, we know what we want in life. Let's just do it,
Let's just do the thing.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real, though. It only is officially serious. When did it become Facebook official?
February.
Was it February whenever we finally...
because it was shortly before Valentine's Day.
That's true. It was February, and then we got married.
21?
of 21. Yeah, and then we got married in June. So I mean, it it was kind of funny. We, not to take all this on us, but our first date was my friend's wedding that I was a groomsman in. She came to it and knew nobody, but barely knew me, of course, but came. And then afterwards we were supposed to go to a coffee shop, and when I looked online, the Starbucks said it had seating inside. And we got there and it did not have seating inside because all the chairs were still
You had to go in and order, but you couldn't stay in.
So we sat in her car for like 2 hours until it was so late that we both had like 3-hour drives to go. So we both needed to get home because I had to lead worship in the morning, and you had work or something in the morning.
I had church the next morning.
And so it was like, all right, well, we have to leave. I have to drive home. And anyway, and then it just took off from there. But yeah, I did.
Man, it's a good thing there wasn't a pastor close by. You might have just got married that night.
I do.
Yeah, it was funny because you were getting ready to finish school, and then the student housing wasn't going to be available to you, and I was just like, "Let's get married, and you can just move in with me."
And he was
like, "What?"
Well, and the way it happened, it was kind of, I guess, done in a very mature and pragmatic way, because I was coming to I came up to spend my spring break there, and so we're sitting there, and we had been talking about like the future and stuff, and we had been driving around, and I pointed out. Oh yeah, you can tell the story about that.
Yeah, I pointed out the bed and breakfast that's like a mile and a half up the road that does outdoor weddings. And I told him, I said, when I was 9-10 years old, I saw my first wedding there. As we were driving by on our way home from church, there was a wedding going on. And I remember looking at my mom and saying, I want to get married there one day. And I told him that, and he's like, yeah, okay.
Did you get married there?
I was like, yeah, we did.
We got married there. And so it was very practical. It was like, we came home.
This is the most adult conversation I think we've ever had.
We came to her apartment and we're hanging out and stuff. And she's looking at her planner. I was like, "What are you doing?" She was like, "Well, I do have this day off, and then I have enough PTO that I could take the whole next week off after that, and that could be our honeymoon, and we could get married that day." And I was like,
"You're that ready to marry me?"
Yeah,
that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yep."
And so I messaged the place on Facebook, and like a couple days later, they're like, "Yeah, it's available." So
now, had you proposed yet at
Nope.
this point?
No, we just talked about it.
We started planning the wedding before the proposal.
Yeah, I proposed to her on top of a mountain, and I'm terrified of heights. That was another thing in itself. But I hadn't asked her dad for it or anything yet.
You hadn't even met my dad yet.
Yeah, that's true. The day I think I met him the same day that I. No. I'd met him a couple times and then asked him for.
Oh, I thought you asked him the first time you met him.
No, because it was the day before I took you over there, because we were going to meet Keenan in a town near us, and he was supposed to spend the day with us. The only reason I brought him along was so that he would be there to take pictures of us and stuff, and
help you off the mountain.
That too, yeah. Help me down the mountain. So I asked him, and when I asked him, he turned and he looked at me. He said, "I don't know you from Adam." And I was like, "Oh, we're off to a good start here." And then he goes,
"My dad."
Her dad. And then he goes, "But I do know Hannah, and the way that she talks about you, like that means I can trust you. She's old enough to know." And stuff. And so, I proposed the next day. And then, like 2 months later, we got married. It was quick. We took the very stereotypical Bible college / seminary track, except she wasn't in seminary, but
yeah,
she was a quick learner.
She learned very quickly.
The day after we had solidified what weekend we wanted to do it, you left, and I remember going up to my mom and dad's house, and I was talking about you, and I was like, yeah, and I think I'm going to marry him. And they were like, what's the date? I told them, and they're like, Hannah, that's 3 months. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, what do you need us?
You know.
What do you need us to do? So they had already like put a deposit down for the venue and stuff when Noah asked. So
I was really glad she said yes, but I
Yes.
also wasn't too worried about it.
These are some mixed signals.
Yeah.
That's
But
beautiful.
so but getting back to y'all, let's see, where were we? We've talked about your coming to faith. We've talked about y'all meeting. So what brought you back here? What is the transition?
No, before we get there, I want to hear your proposal story.
Oh,
We
sure.
just shared ours.
Go ahead.
So, it's so hard to date when you're in ministry, right? I'm
Sure.
a young single guy who moves down to Florida. I'm a youth director, and everything's got to be so public when you're
true.
dating.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
Everybody
tough.
knows.
And I also have a desire for things to be done right, and the way God wants them to do. So it's I'm a product of reading I Kiss Dating Goodbye, and the purity movements and all the different things that kind of troubled and messed up a lot of people figuring out how to do relationships. So here I am with the spotlight on me, and we decide she comes with me to a football game at
So that's what youth pastors do. You go to football games, basketball games.
went with their family, and she came with, and then afterwards we went to Denny's and basically laid out the most unromantic, if we get into this, it's because we think it could lead to marriage, and like all of these rules and regulations and different things. But it was at a Denny's. We went to Denny's over some cheese fries, I think, and some loaded cheese fries, and
Hot chocolate and
made
coffee.
the decision to start dating with the purpose that it would lead to marriage. So I don't think it was extremely long either. I think it was less than a year. But what we wound up doing is we planned out a date. We went and saw Lion King on Broadway up in Tampa.
Nice.
And then beforehand, we went to P.F. Chang's for dinner. We went to see Lion King, and then we went to that same Denny's. And I had a friend of mine. They let us kind of decorate a whole one section of that Denny's to be able to do the proposal in, and
Nice.
kind of had a section off, and I proposed to her there in Denny's.
Nice.
It was romantic.
Yeah, it was a grand slam.
Did you know it was coming, or was it a shock?
I did not. I mean, I knew that this is
Right.
Well, I kind of did. I didn't know when, because he had asked my dad.
Right.
And my dad.
And one of the things I said, hey, and don't say anything to Chazlik, because, I
Right.
haven't told her anything.
Yeah.
As soon as I get off the phone with him, I'm asking him. Calls up Chazlik. Chazzy, congratulations.
I'm like, for what?
Oops.
So I knew it was, he had asked my dad,
Right.
so I just didn't know when or
Right.
how or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when we went, and Lion King is my favorite Disney movie. It's
Nice.
Something my dad and I just connected over.
Yeah.
Was Lion King, and so it was just a really great date. And then we ended up at Denny's, which I wasn't surprised about either. I mean,
Right.
after football games, it's the only thing that's really open anyway.
Yeah.
And then after that, so it was just really nice.
Was the Denny's the spot that everybody went to after the football game? Is that one of the things that people
Not
would
this
do?
particular one.
Okay.
No. I think at that time, I remember most of the time, everybody
Applebee's.
would go out to Applebee's.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Because you had half-price appetizers.
Yeah.
And, oh, man, I loved me some loaded mashed potatoes and boneless buffalo wings. But for some reason, we wound up at Denny's, and it just became our place.
Where-
Our place.
Football in the South, like high school football in the South, is a social thing. Like it
Yes.
just, everybody in town ends up there at their respective high schools. And growing up, I went to a high school in the middle of nowhere, and so nothing was open.
Cornfield.
Yeah, for us it was cow fields.
Okay.
And so like literally at football practice, sometimes our coaches would have to speak up because of how loud the cows were across the street, type of thing.
all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, just and if they were doing the, what's it called whenever they put the calves away from the mamas,
Oh, when they're not weaning.
culling them,
Yeah.
whatever it's
I'm
called.
thinking horses.
The calves they
They're
bray
so
a lot, so
loud.
they're just like just like over and over. That gets really loud when there's a bunch of them, and so it just
So sad.
yeah, it is a little sad. I remember we went to, what was it, a family reunion
For the cows?
No.
No.
Her family.
Back home in Sparta, North Carolina, I have family that own a herd of cattle. I have a lot of family that's in agriculture, and they were doing that. They had the mamas and the babies separated, and the whole entire time we were at that family reunion, sitting on that porch, it was just, that's all you could hear. And the woman was like, I wish we'd have waited just one more week to do this.
An interesting fact about that, Sparta, North Carolina. Are you familiar with the actor Zach Galifianakis?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He owns a ranch, like a farm/ranch in Sparta, North Carolina.
Oh, really?
And is from...
And grew up in Wilkes,
which is down the mountain from...
which is where I went to church and went to school and worked at Chick-fil-A and served him through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
And had no idea who he was.
Anybody who lives there can say, "We are Sparta."
Yep.
They're the Trojans.
They're the Trojans.
But their colors are John Deere green and yellow.
100%.
Makes
Very
sense that they
John
would be
Deere
the Trojans. Yeah, very Greek.
Yeah. They have a brewery in town called Laconia, which is somehow tied to the Spartans as well. I don't remember. It says it on the wall. But anyway, all right. So we've done the engagement story.
Yep.
We've done their coming to faith. We've done how you met.
Did you have any fun circus-themed stuff in your wedding? Did you bring any of that in? No.
Nope.
Yeah, we wound up kind of having a shotgun type of wedding because we got engaged, and then a month later, her father was killed, right? So we had a date planned. We wound up postponing the date just because of the kind of the trauma that had.
And I went to Africa.
And then we decided to move back up to New York. And on the way up to New York, we were going to stop in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and get married.
Hey.
And
that's where we honeymooned.
We stopped. Aww. We stopped there. And, I'm in my suit. She's in her dress, and just wound up having some more trauma-induced excitement that happened. And we wind up not getting married there. And so we get back to New York, not married. So she's living in the basement of my parents' house. I'm living on the second floor of my parents' house, and just relationships are strained. And so we wind up just... some friends of ours who we kind of had built relationship with. I grew up here in Syracuse, so I had a lot of friends, and they took Chazlet in, and they decided, hey, we're going to put a wedding on for you. So it was really maybe a dozen people at the church that I grew up going to, and
they knew me like
the
a couple
pastor.
Weeks, like not long, and they picked me up from work, and they got my dress fixed, and
that's sweet.
It was the little white Wegmans cake was our cake, a little tiny white one, and we had Wegmans to go for our meal.
Yeah,
and
the reception was just the two of us, and my best, one of my best friends just playing his guitar.
Nice.
Like we were dancing, and
nice.
So it wasn't anything.
What was your first dance song?
Whatever Seth played. I don't know.
It would have been a worship song of some
probably.
kind.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
But I don't
like an
remember.
early 2000s worship song?
This would have been
2009.
Yeah, around 2009, 2010, somewhere in there.
2009.
2000. Yeah, we got married in 2009.
Yeah.
September 18th, 2009.
Could have been.
I didn't think about that.
Could it have been?
It could have been.
How He Loves. It could have been. That was a 2009.
You could name a million songs, and I would be like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't even remember. I just remember that my bouquet was lilies because
go.
they asked me what flowers I wanted, and they got me a bouquet of lilies.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Your wedding was sponsored by Wegmans.
Yes, it was. No, but they're an amazing group of women who are all over the country now. They all live in different places, but yeah, I'm super grateful for them.
Speaking of sponsors, this episode is sponsored. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have any sponsors.
Love Handles. Love Handles.
There we go. This episode is sponsored by Love Handles. We went there right before this, and we'll talk about that in just a little while.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. Anyway, all right. So you stopped in Gatlinburg, and things happened. Didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Came here. So you're here now. You've gotten married. What gets you to today? What gets you to Forward Point? What gets you to...
Yeah, so we got married, and then I, coming back from Florida, was looking for employment, and at first wound up working at, like, the local Salvation Army had a home for, like, runaway teenagers, and I was working there, and, I kind of always desired to be a DJ. I thought... JD's DJ service was a cool title that I had to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And when you would talk about music production and arts, I always heard that Apple products were superior. So I decided to get my first Apple device was a computer, and I just fell in love with this thing. I mean, I've always been a techie computer guy, and I just loved my Mac so much. So I went and applied and wound up getting hired at Apple, and worked there for a couple years and really loved it, enjoyed it. I started off as just a door greeter. They called them a concierge, but you just said hi to people at the front door because you didn't know about anything, but they liked your personality. So I was a concierge, and then I worked my way up to sales, and then full-time sales, and then became one of the first, they called them experts at the time in the sales department. And then after, about 2 years doing that, just kind of felt like we were ready to get back into ministry. Yeah. And I think I still was kind of in a unhealthy place as far as my view of ministry, just wanting to kind of have a position, wanting to be successful.
Sure,
and, so we would search a lot of different places and came across this place that was looking for a high school pastor, and that seemed to be kind of a cool position, not just a youth pastor, but at a place that's big enough that has a high school pastor and a middle school pastor, and it was in Indiana, and we wound up going through the interview process, and they really liked us, and we really liked the idea of that kind of. I really liked the idea of that kind of position.
Sure.
So I don't know if I was going into it with the clear picture of what did God want me to do, or what was He calling me to do. So we went there, and loved a lot of the people, but they just started going in a real different direction than what I felt like I was called to. I mean, we went there with the expectation that Indiana was going to be the new place where the Doyle tribe is going to exist from. That's how we went into it.
We bought our first house.
Did you guys have any kids at this point?
We had just had Justice.
Okay.
Yeah, Justice was born in December, and we moved out there that summer. So
where in Indiana?
Mishawaka, which is just a border town of South Bend.
Okay.
So like Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, a couple hours from Chicago, so we got to go to Chicago quite a few times to visit there, which was a lot of fun. But they just, went in a different direction, and as much as we loved the people and just didn't feel like that was where we wanted.
That wasn't our forever
to be the forever place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how long were you there in Indiana?
We were there for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years.
It was great because our house was like 2 blocks away from one of the local high schools, so kids would come over. After there would be times when I'd come home from work and there would be kids in the house. It was just an open door policy. It wasn't horrible.
Right.
It just didn't fit our jive.
Sure.
It just wasn't. We just wasn't.
It was just a step on your path. It wasn't a destination.
Yeah, because I think part of your relationship with Jesus, hopefully, is that the more and more you get to know Him, the more and more He changes you. Right? The more and more that you begin to feel like, oh man, maybe this isn't what's so important, or man, maybe this isn't exactly what it's all cracked up to be.
Right.
And that was just, again, part of what was happening during that time. So we decided to move back to Syracuse. It was real hard for grandparents to be so far away from their grandkids. They only got to see them in person every so often, and so we decided to move back to Syracuse. Not really sure what we were going to be doing.
Right.
Mind you, I'm an educator, okay? And your license doesn't transfer, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
So I literally started over 3 times.
Yeah.
Florida, and then New York, and then Indiana, and then New York.
Yeah.
So it was like, I was like, we got to find at least stay in the same state.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not easy to find a job when you don't have a license.
Right. Yeah.
And there's like a holding ground like of 6 months when your license is like being transferred over. And so
does New York do it? So in for instance, in Louisiana, you can be a teacher if you just have a bachelor's degree, as long as you get your license within the first 3 years of teaching.
So a lot of states are reciprocal to New York, but mine was from Florida, and nobody really took Florida's license,
Nobody
which is
takes
fine.
Florida too seriously.
Yeah.
At that time, now there's a teacher shortage.
In wars,
Now there's a teacher shortage everywhere, so you could teach pretty much anywhere with any license right now.
Right.
But at that time, not so much. This was 14 years ago,
Yeah,
so
right.
So it didn't really work that way. But here in New York, also, you can't get a professional teaching license without a master's degree.
Oh,
Wow.
interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So I then had to get my master's, and yeah. So,
That's-
which I wasn't planning on doing. I'm a
Right.
teacher. Why would I spend more money to get
Right.
more debt when I
Right.
don't make anything?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
But New York is New York, and we're special. And so, yes. So we, so I ended up getting my license here and working for the Syracuse City School District, which I love. I
Nice.
love being an
But
urban ed.
Apple had offered me a position, so that's kind of was the anchor that allowed us just to come back. you know.
Nice.
So we came back with that in the horizon.
The one over in the mall?
In the
Or-
mall,
okay.
yeah, that's the only close one.
Oh,
There's-
okay.
There's one in each major city: Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Albany.
Gotcha.
All just have one.
Gotcha.
In them, all in malls. So I was working there. We kind of came back thinking that we would get involved with like college ministry,
Yeah.
because Syracuse and right next to Syracuse is ESF, and then Lemoyne. So Syracuse has got a large college population, and
Yeah.
so
The
we
Orange
kind
Man.
of got involved at a church, with that in mind, and things wound up not really working out there. And as I was still working at Apple full time, we had developed, reconnected with a childhood acquaintance, and his name was Steven Skinner, and that kind of was the springboard for what led us into being a part of Forward Point.
Yeah. So
After he sold you a house.
After he sold us a house.
After he sold us a house.
now, so you reconnect with Steven. He sells you the house. What's the conversation that gets Forward Point started? How does it? Because I know Steven, like they had a ministry beforehand. Him and his father had a ministry, correct?
His father-in-law was the one leading
Okay, yeah, father-in-law.
the ministry. Yeah, so when we were looking, Chazlet was itching to get out of my parents because we're back in my parents' house, living with my parents. She was
With
itching.
2 kids at the time.
She was itching to get out of there way before we had any money to get out of there. But we go house hunting and meet Steven, and then a year later he helps us buy a house, and things kind of started falling through where we are at serving. And we reached out to him and said, "Hey, where are you serving?" Because he kind of talked about some of the things he was doing, how he was serving, leading music, but in his house ministry that he had just started, being a realtor, and he would give guys a chance who are maybe struggling, hurting, or whatever, addicts, give them a job to try to help get them off the street, right? To help get them out of the lifestyle that they were in, and that's who he was using. And we really connected with his philosophy and just who he was. So when we reached out to him to ask where they were going at the time, he said, "Oh, funny you should mention that. The leadership, the oversight of Forward Point had just asked him to take over leading Forward Point."
Yeah.
So it was kind of this timing thing. He's like,
Which is in the basement of a Christian bookstore at the time.
Right.
yeah, real small.
Real small.
And, so we decided to come check it out for a few weeks. And it was really his heartbeat, even outside of the church. He, being a real estate agent in this vision to kind of rehab a city, he had a video that he had put together and made that was on his website. And we remember we were one night watching it, and after seeing that video that didn't speak to anything about spiritual beliefs or the principles of what a church should be built around, is literally just his heart behind why he is in real estate and his hope for what he could do in Eastwood. After watching that, we said, "Yeah, man, we're all in. We're willing to go down this road with you and help out any way we can, and we believe with what you're doing." And that was 9 years ago.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 9 years ago, in the basement of the bookstore that's no longer there, right?
No longer there.
Correct.
And where are there any other locations that you were meeting besides there before where you are currently?
They not when we were involved.
No.
So
Okay.
they were kind of a storefront church that had kind of moved to a handful of different places. Up
Sure.
to that point, we got involved right at the tail end of it being there.
Okay.
And then Stephen had this opportunity that kind of came out of nowhere to buy the Palace Theater.
Right.
And he winds up buying it, and we've been meeting at the Palace Theater ever since.
Now it's a very unique meeting place in the sense that it's kind of, it's a theater. I mean, it's you know, full
Old school theater.
Yeah, so full stage, you know, theater
And
seating.
it still operates as a theater.
Right,
Like
yeah.
It's beautiful.
I mean,
It's beautiful, and it's very unique, and the fact that you've already got the big projector for the screen already, that makes it a lot easier. And
And
you know,
popcorn.
and the popcorn. I'm sure you pull people in that just smell popcorn or see there's coffee and the snacks laid out, and they just walk in from that. You know, that alone. And our first experience was I looked up places. I just looked up Churches Syracuse, which is what I do. Every place we go, I just start looking through all of the churches, and I look through their websites and all those types of things to kind of get a feel of them and
Looking
what
at
they
their
believe.
statements of faith.
Yeah.
and-
Right.
What they believe
See if you
in,
align
and-
with them, at least
Yeah.
on paper.
Right, exactly. And see where they are and stuff. And so I told Hannah ahead of time, I said, well, we're going to try out this church. You know, they meet at a theater, which is pretty cool. And if nothing else, we get to see a cool venue. And
Which actually was not the first church that we've been in that met at a theater.
no, it isn't the first one.
Oh,
But
First one was in Maine.
Yeah,
Aw,
they
beautiful.
met at a local theater. Well, theirs was the auditorium of old high school was theirs. So, but anyway, so we had a much better experience here. But anyway, so we walk in and we're kind of like, okay, you know, we got met by somebody at the front door. I can't remember who it was. I don't remember his name. But anyway, then we
met Lee.
Then we
I was gonna
start to
say, it
walk
wasn't
down
Lee?
and well, as soon as we walked about 5 more steps in, Lee just comes barreling right at us like, "Hey, how's it going?
Oh, this
You know,
is your
like,
first time,
yeah.
right? Make sure you go over in the corner.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
name's Lee if you need
Yeah.
any help.
Yeah, and he made us feel very welcome, and so
He's an all-star.
Yeah.
He's an
He really
all-star.
is.
he is. And
I actually told Noah the other day, I said, if he is not just a picture of the heart of God, I
Yeah.
don't know what is. Just the way that he loves people, even when he has no idea who you are.
yeah,
Like just,
And all people.
Yeah.
all people. Yeah.
All people.
He's
and the way he serves
he's
is
precious.
is special, especially with his story, and you know, just an amazing picture of God's grace and God's transformational grace.
For sure.
But you know, we took our seats and in the very back, just in case we needed to slip out quickly. And
Once the snakes came out.
and so you know, then you know, we had our experience, and what sealed the deal. We really liked it for the most part. And then like what sealed the deal for us was coming here to y'all's house for group like 2 days later, and just the community that we experienced from that. I think how it worked was I downloaded the Church Center app, not to give a commercial to this, but downloaded it and I think I just asked to join or something, and then I think you called me and left a voicemail, and I think you texted me after she called me or something anyway, and we wound up here, and then we just stuck around, and it's been really great. It's been very special to us. But
Yeah, as soon as we left that first group, we kind of just looked at each other and we're like, "Yeah, this is where we're gonna settle."
We could hang out here.
yeah.
We're not bad people.
No,
Well, we were nervous because we had already had some sketchy experiences with some people first getting here, and then later I think that same week we had some sketchy experiences with some people. Just anyway, it doesn't don't need to get into
No,
it, but it was we were a little bit
hard.
wary of the area, just you know where we were where we've been staying and stuff, but it's been fine. It's leveled out, and we've gotten used to how people are not
It's not the
Southern.
South.
Yeah.
I was going to say we've gotten very used to the differences in.
It's not Kansas anymore.
The frozen tundra.
Yeah. So,
Even though it's not been very frozen while we're
It's
here,
true.
it's
It's
been
been
hot,
fro-
especially in an
hot.
area with no AC in the place we're renting.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
we
no
bought
bueno.
an air conditioner, but anyway, so we go 9 years ago. You join up with Forward Point. What gets you to today's sponsor, Love Handles? What gets you there? Because that was a couple of years ago now. Just celebrated 2 years.
Just celebrated 2 years at Love Handles. So I was still working full time at Apple while working with Steven. And Steven, you know, he never went to Bible school. But he comes from a very strong faith family, and has a lot of just based on his family and who they were very in the community. They had the bookstore that we talked about that was open for 60 years, very pillar in the community type people. So he definitely has the knowledge, but just not really the training as far as maybe church structure or different things like that. So
and really, what is church?
Yeah,
structure?
well,
You know what I mean?
and, so he kind of felt like a
Education
fish
can only get you so far.
Exactly.
out of
That's
water, and so he even to this day kind of gives me a lot of leash, even though on paper he is the president, I think according to the bylaws, right? But we say we co-pastor together, so he's very honoring as far as sharing, and then he, lets me do pretty much whatever I want. You have such a great relationship. We're aligned so well that most of the time we just, we don't even have to ask each other. We just, that's just kind of the way we think. But I'm working, full time at Apple, doing a lot of stuff for the church, and then gradually, a few years later, I get to go part time at Apple, part time at the church, and then a few more years after that, wind up leaving Apple to go full time and just work for Forward Point. And it's been that way for a while. And over the course of the years, we had always talked, even before he bought the Palace, about just having a venue where there could be events. And I grew up listening to a radio program called Adventures in Odyssey that was kind of built around this idea of an ice cream shop. So we talked about that, having a place like that where community could happen, and
Wits End.
Wits End.
Yes,
So
that's
before,
what Love Handles is founded off. Is
so
Wits
before I left Apple, at the mall there was a frozen yogurt shop called Sweet Yummy, and I developed a relationship with the son of the owners, because I would go on walks and just would stop and talk with them, and as I got to know them, they started telling me how they were going to retire, sell the business, and move out west. And we just kind of took it as we would always go to Sweet Frogs on the wait list day that they had, right? The flat rate. I was like, man, I love frozen yogurt. Why don't we open a frozen yogurt shop? Because that could be our thing for the community that we wanted to do. We wanted to open up some kind of community center that wasn't going to be a community center. Right. It had to be kind of incognito, as it were.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe it's going to be a frozen yogurt shop. Maybe that's how we do it. So we got together, the four of us. We met with them many times back and forth, and we finally said, all right, we're going to do this. Where are we going to do it? And then next thing we know, a block from the Palace Theater, an old Subway closes, it goes up for sale, and Steven's able to buy it. So now all of a sudden we have the what, we have the where, and they decided that they would train us, so we would go there and they would teach us all about the frozen yogurt machines and the places to get stuff and to do all those things.
Literally just took him under his wing.
That's
They
awesome.
didn't charge him
Yeah.
or or anything. They just knew his heart.
Yeah,
and
very sweet Asian family, barely speak English very well. Matter of fact, the one guy, he just friended me on Facebook, maybe 2 months ago, and he's got 60 friends, he just, so it's just this really cool relationship that we were able to build over time that led to this. And then right at the last minute, it wound up being at the mall kind of swooped in and said that they were going to buy everything there, and we weren't able to get the equipment from them, right? So here we're kind of, the place is being worked on, and we're kind of last minute wondering what we're going to do. And just another kind of random, thank you God opportunity. Steven knew some guys who had this kind of warehouse of restaurant equipment, and he happened to have 6 frozen yogurt machines and a topping bar that just been sitting there.
Yeah.
So each one of these machines, brand new, costs probably $18,000, right?
Yeah,
and
they're expensive.
And we wound up being able to get 6 of them for the price of
Half
2
of
of them.
Wow.
So we've had some learning experiences along the way because they've needed to be fixed or maintained or whatnot. But 2 years ago, we were able to open up Love Handles, which is a community place. A community place that has a real drive to network and promote local nonprofits and charities by sponsoring 4 of them each month. And each month, the customer, when they get done with their yogurt, gets to choose one of the charities that we're going to match the tax to, and then we give the customer the option to round it up to the nearest dollar from there. And if they do, we throw them a dance party where the lights start changing colors and the music gets real loud, and it becomes a lot of fun. And over the course of the the 2 years we're just around $30,000 that we've been able to give to local nonprofits.
That's awesome.
You know, and as well as just the monthly promotion of the different 4 of them. So we get the name because all of the machines, all of the toppings, all use handles. So every time a customer is using one of the handles, they're loving on the community.
Yeah.
So that's why we call
That's
it.
why it's called
cute.
Love
But it's
Handles.
also funny because it's a dessert place, and you know it gives you love handles. So
That was going to be
Well,
one of my
but frozen
questions.
yogurt,
Yeah.
frozen yogurt is healthier. So
Yes.
doesn't
of
give you as
course.
bad a love
very
handles.
non-fat or low-fat
Yeah,
option
that's right.
with a lot of
That's right.
probiotics to help
That's
with
right.
digestive.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
I feel like every time we've been in there, everybody that has paid, when they ask, you know, do you want to round up? I've never seen anyone say no.
Yeah, I've never
It's,
seen
it
it's
seems-
very rare. There's
I'm
every
gonna
once
say
in a
probably
while.
97% of the people, and I think the key is the options. You know,
Right.
because I think, and this is just something we stumbled upon, was we were going to have options to begin with, but with there being options, you know, sometimes we might have Catholic charities up there, and
Yeah.
if somebody comes who is maybe anti-faith or
Sure.
no, I don't want to round up, but there's 3 other options that they
Yeah.
can choose from.
Right.
They, you know, the sad part is most of the time if we have something to do with animals up there, at the end of the month the animal one is always going to beat everything else. I don't know what it is, but people just
They love
I think
animals.
they default to, if they don't know what the other ones are, you know, the animal one. That's
Yeah.
what they
Not
choose.
gonna lie,
You know?
we've totally picked the animals because we don't know the name of these charities.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
if there's lines behind us,
We did.
the
we
animals
did,
get picked.
We did teachers and we did
Yeah.
animals. That
Yeah.
were the 2 things we did.
The ones that you did, and then I think, but having those options
Sure,
helps provide
absolutely.
an opportunity for people who maybe wouldn't want to give to something else.
Well, it's like whenever you go through Taco Bell's drive-through, they're like, "Do you want to round up to help with local? What do they say? Local?
Something.
What's the word I'm thinking of? Scholarships, local scholarships." And I'm like, "Okay, local scholarship. Show me the college student from Syracuse University that's getting a Taco Bell scholarship, and I'll round up."
Right.
But I know for a fact that all that is your corporation roundup. Your corporation donations that you get a tax write-off at the end of
Yeah.
the year. That's all you're caring about. So,
No, these are all
corporations,
local,
yeah.
all within in Syracuse or just outside of,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, at the beginning of the month, we blast them on social media to help promote the organization. We have a poster of them on the wall, so the customers can come in, hopefully beginning to learn that they can read about
Right.
the organizations before they go through the line, so they
Yeah.
know what they're choosing about. You know.
Yeah, I love that formula. There is a lack of third places in communities, especially now. There used to be more. There was still a lack before everything shut down. Now there's even more of a lack, and so to have places where you can, I mean, you didn't even talk about my favorite feature of the place, which is the back room.
Yeah.
The free arcade is
Well, and
great.
then we kind of just stumbled upon that because originally it was just
just
an
back
open
room.
room,
Yeah.
an open space, and we had maybe some tables back there. So for the first, I don't know, maybe even for the first 8 months or so, we had, a local teacher came in and did like an art class for the community. They could sign up for that. Some local organizations maybe had their party there or something.
or a meeting or whatever.
A
like
meeting
neighborhood
there, and we
meeting.
just weren't really feeling like this is meeting what we were trying to accomplish. And I think it was, I hate to give Steven more credit than he's due because he's already got a big head, but I think he said something about having an arcade back there, and it just kind of sent me on
and it's free.
on a mission to find different things. So I could not find a place that had anything other than like the arcade machines that you put money into that were claw things,
Yeah.
that kind of feel like scams, right?
Yeah.
Like you're kind of ripping people off.
Yep.
So I didn't want to go down that route. And then I just remember one day looking on Facebook Marketplace and seeing someone selling their arcade 1-up
Yeah.
video game. You
Yeah.
know, looks like an arcade machine. Maybe not quite as solid as an OG arcade
right,
machine,
yeah.
but it looks like the whole deal and has them. So I got one, and then wound up having a couple
Two,
more,
three,
and now all of a
15
sudden,
later.
twice a day I'm looking on Facebook Marketplace just trying to see if anyone else has
Yeah.
put one up there, and we've kind of grown up from those first few to now we have about 15 of them that are back there.
That's
and
awesome.
we put neon LED lights on all the back of the machines. We have a LED screen net that hangs from the ceiling, and it just kind of created a very cool old school arcade environment that's free.
Yeah,
you know, you can rent it for birthday parties and that kind of stuff, but just you can come in free. We don't even, you know, there's no purchase necessary. We have kids who just come in and go back there and use, you know, over the summer, use the water, and we'll go back and play games, and that's what they do, because that's the community space that we wanted to begin with. That's what it's there for. So that's the need that it's meeting.
Well,
let's talk about what you did to celebrate the 2-year anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were there
fun.
and we got to experience that, and it was pretty cool sitting and watching.
It's probably one of my favorites.
Did you guys know what was going to happen going
you
into
didn't
it?
know?
No, we
well,
didn't.
you'll have to share from your perspective too. You know, so we want to celebrate. Part of being able to give away $30,000 is not because Love Handles is given of our $30,000.
Right.
A chunk of that is customers who rounded up to the nearest dollar. A lot of customers who rounded up to the nearest dollar that have allowed us to be stewards of that money. So we want to thank our community, and because Love Handles is not here to be some kind of, you know, financial juggernaut bringing in lots of money.
Right.
We have
That's not the goal.
a freedom to be able to do a lot of things. So we offer to the community, we tell them it's going to be free hot dogs. We're going to have free carnival games on our parking lot, but then it's also dollar FroYo, right? Who doesn't want cheap frozen yogurt?
Right.
But the thing that we do to thank the customers when they're coming to pay with their dollar bill for their frozen yogurt, we actually give them $1.
Yeah.
And we say, we just want to thank you for being on this journey with us and everything that you've helped us to accomplish. Here's $1 for you.
Right.
We can't do what we do without you.
For being a part of it. So we've done that 2 years in a row now. And I considered doing $2 this year for the 2-year anniversary, but I figured that was a very bad precedent to set, because when we get to 10-year anniversary, it's going to be, you know, going to take out a small loan. Yeah.
Yeah. When we came through the line, we, you know,
It was a line.
Well, first we didn't know that we needed to go around and go to the back.
Yeah. And
Chazlet hadn't made it to the door yet.
So we came in and we sat down. We're like, we'll wait for a few minutes to let the line go down. It didn't go down. It kept getting longer and longer. And it was out of the building through the back door. And so we came through the line, you know, we finally get our stuff, and then.
But even before we went through the line, we were sitting kind of back behind where the register is at. And we're just watching people's reaction when they were handed a $1 bill, and you know, she kept telling them, "Oh no, your money's not good here." Sonia was just like, "Nope, your money's not good here. They'll fire me if they." But the look of shock and confusion on people's face, and then I saw a couple of people like tear up. They were just like, "Wait, are you serious?" And she's like, "Yeah, no, we want to give back to the community. We want to say thank you," and it was such a cool experience. I was like, man, I wish people were okay with, you know, strangers videoing them, because it's beautiful. It was beautiful to watch.
It was, and it wasn't just like $1 per group, to clarify to the listeners. It was everybody in the group. You know, some of these groups were, you know, like a mom with like 4 or 5 kids with them, and
every kid got $1.
And the mom, you know, was definitely a little overwhelmed by it, because, you know, a lot of around here, they're not well off, you know, and so that was really special to see. It was definitely special, and some of them were confused, you know, like what do you mean?
What's going on here?
What are we doing here? Like, am I signing up for something that I'm not realizing I'm signing up for? Like,
what's the catch?
Yeah, exactly. But
no catch. Just
no,
to
it was
say
really
thank
special. It was really special.
Yeah,
so,
and we saved our $2 and went back later and put it in the tip jar.
Put it back in the tip
jar. You
That's
guys.
nice of you.
No, but it's true. And then and another one of those like aha times of the year is Halloween also. Like, and when you say Halloween around some church circles, like it's like, you know, but here in Eastwood, Halloween's a really big deal. Like they shut down the streets and the houses are all decked out. Like it's like a really, really big deal. And the main loop is Forest Hill, which we're at the end of. Love Handles is at the end of it. And we give out free FroYo on Halloween. And so the line is out. We had Sally and Jack, you know, from Nightmare Before Christmas out there as characters, like greeting people and taking pictures. And then community members in our church all, you know, line up their trunks, you know, like a traditional trunk or treat. So kids come in, get their FroYo, and then they get their bags all filled with candy. And but it's just nice, you know, just that people can see us, is that we are a business, quote unquote, but really we just want you to find happiness and
Yeah.
joy, and if we can be a part of that, then
Yeah.
you know we've done our job. You know.
That's cool.
Well, do you have any more questions for me?
I do. What is your favorite flavor?
No, I am. Well, it stinks because I can't have a lot of sugar just because of my diet. But like, I am a traditional plain vanilla person with nothing on it really. I just really it sounds bad, but it kind of tastes like a McDonald's. You know, like
Yeah.
just plain,
Oh, yeah.
plain and simple. But I do like pineapple Dole Whip.
Oh, yeah.
I do like that. So when we do have that, I do like to mix my Dole Whip with my vanilla. But I also like the espresso when we have it
Oh,
too.
yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
It's very good.
So I guess I have a lot of favorites. But my go-to is the no sugar vanilla.
There you go.
My favorite is the California tart. I love I love all things sour and tart.
He
So
loves
I really love
it.
that flavor. And then when we have the watermelon, I love the two together, the tart and the.
Oh, that
The
would work
watermelon.
well.
Yes,
yeah,
he loves that.
would work well. That would work well.
What's the most expensive topping?
Freeze
The most expensive topping that we have to
Skittles.
buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of stumbled into this relationship with a guy who gives us the freeze-dried Skittles at a ridiculous price.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so traditionally, I mean, if you go to a store,
Yeah.
It's expensive.
freeze-dried
Freeze-dried
stuff is pricey.
ridiculous,
Yeah,
yeah.
right?
We on a different web show that we do called Foodie Drinky, which is exclusive to watch. You can watch it if you're part of our Facebook group. Anyway, we have a Facebook group that
How fun.
talks about our travels and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Instead of filling everybody's
Facebook feed.
with posts over and over, we just do this group that you can be a part of, and that way, if you want to see it, you can see it there. But we also do this silly little show where we try foods and drinks and stuff, and Hannah saw freeze dried one time. I was like, "Oh, that's cool. How much is it?" And she's like, "It's like $8 a bag, and it's like
Yes.
6 things in
Right,
the bag."
yeah, it's not even like a full bag of Skittles,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
it's just a few of them. So, I mean, I guess the machine to make it is pretty expensive, so I
Right.
guess there's probably not that many of them, so you got supply and demand going on. But there's this local guy who's wanted to start a business and said, hey, can we, work together, and we'd help promote them and whatnot, but I think those should be the most expensive topping
Yeah,
that we have, but
sure.
I told him the price that we needed at, and he's like, yeah, I can do that. I'm like,
Wow.
okay.
That's awesome.
So he gives them to us at that price, and we're able to have those as
I love them.
yeah.
They're really cool. The
I love the wild
the
berry
caramel
Skittles.
M&Ms that you just got, that
Yeah.
was one of the things we tried. Those are awesome.
Yeah,
They are
well, I'm a
really
big
good, too.
M&M fan to begin with. I think the worms are very popular too. We still a lot of those real quick
Oh, really?
in the bags. Yeah, people love the.
They're good
The worms.
because if you like the sour candy, it like enhances the sour, so it's real sour. So I love them.
I don't like sour, so when
I'm
we
not a
tried
sour
them, I was
person
immediately
either.
like, oh gosh.
I know.
So you
That's why I don't
like
the
sour, Hannah?
I love
Have you ever
sour.
had a kumquat?
I don't know if
Before
I
a
have.
little citrus, it looks like a little
Yes.
orange.
Before you leave, I had.
Well, make sure you have to try a
I got-
kumquat.
yeah,
Okay, no, I don't think I have. I know I've heard of them, but I don't think I've ever had one.
I have a funny story behind kumquats,
Yeah?
actually. So
I'm surprised
not to-
you
not-
know about a kumquat.
Oh yeah. So this guy that was a family friend of ours, his name was Uncle Ray, I think was his name. Old man. My grandpa would go visit him, and I'd go with him. And they would go old man talk, and I would watch his TV. Well, he says to me one day, he goes, "Hey, my fruit bush outside or tree, whatever they grow on, it's really producing. You should go try it." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, all right." And he's like, "Yeah, they're just like oranges. They're just tiny." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure." He's like, "You can just eat them right off of the thing." I'm like, "All right, great." So I go out there, and I grab one, and I stick it in my mouth, and it is sour. I mean, so sour. And I spit it out, and I come back in, and I'm like, "You didn't tell me." And he is just grinning from ear to ear. Like,
That old man got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got me.
I tell people they're like a mix between an orange and a lemon.
yeah.
Yeah, they got the lemon. When I moved down to Florida, the church had a kumquat tree on its
Oh.
property,
Yes.
and I thought I had died. Growing up, my dad turned me on. I mean, he would have kumquats, and I thought they're the most amazing thing in the world. And then to go someplace where there's a kumquat tree, I was like, man, this
It
close
is
to
on our
heaven.
bucket list to have a kumquat tree someday.
That's cool.
See, our thing growing up was people would have, what are the little sweet oranges? Satsumas? Are y'all familiar with what satsumas are? They're like oranges, but smaller and really sweet.
Like a tangerine type
Kinda-
of
well,
small.
They're
They're
like
kind of like
small-
those halo-looking
yeah,
things.
or cuties that you see in the
Cuties,
store.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, but people just
super sweet.
My grandpa would know these old guys who'd just be like, I got satsumas, and would give him like 4 Walmart bags stuffed full of them. And my grandpa would just chow down on them. But when they're fresh, they're just so sweet.
Ooh, that sounds yummy.
Anyway, we're turning this into a food podcast. All right. Well, we're running a little long here, which is okay. That doesn't matter. But do you have any more questions for him? I have one final question. That is just like when we first got married. We haven't had married couples on here, so I haven't got to ask this question. But we got married. There was a lot of things to learn about a man living with a woman and a woman living with a man. Was there one thing? Either of you can have this experience. Was there one thing that was like a growing pain between the two of you? Like a oh, this is something that guys do regularly, or this is something that women do regularly.
Well, he lives in a house with not only me, but we have 4 daughters. So he's got a lot of girls in the house. So I'll let him speak to that. I don't know.
You can take any one of those typical things that you would experience as a guy moving in and living with a girl.
Right.
Now multiply times 5, right? That's kind of what I have to deal with for the most part. It's no fun. I will say this: over recently, the whole view of marriage and weddings and what we celebrate for me is kind of. I'm doing a lot of weddings and whatnot, and I'm beginning to realize, like, man, you know what? We need to spend all this money that we spend on weddings and save it and put it towards like the crystal anniversary, right? Or the 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of money celebrating people getting married, and it's easy to get married.
Yeah.
It's not easy to stay together. It takes a lot of work to stay together. Yeah. And I think our priorities are a little mixed up in that regards. But as far as what it was like, what was the hardest thing to...
I think we're both pretty easygoing. Like we don't have like any things that like pet peeves really. I mean, we don't really. I don't know.
The biggest thing is right now. Go look at our closet. Right, she has a whole wall of the closet, and I have a little section. Right, before we moved into our finished attic that we just finished recently, right, and had this additional space. The room we had one little closet, right, and it started off with half hers, half mine.
Yeah.
And the last year that we were in that room, it was all hers, and my stuff was on a portable.
Noah started out with his closet being the guest room.
Yeah,
we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. The one in the master bedroom was a walk-in closet.
Nice.
It was very nice.
All her stuff, and then I was all my stuff was in the other room.
Yep.
With all of her coats. Like it was. I just took up a portion of the other closet.
Yeah,
but that's probably like I don't know.
That's probably.
Is there anything else that drives you crazy?
So I think the moral of the story is I'm so easygoing that she doesn't have anything. She doesn't have anything to talk about.
I think my biggest pet peeve was, and it's sometimes it still drives me a little crazy, is his socks not making it into the laundry basket. And I'm just like, it's right there.
Well,
it's
so
right
close.
there.
They do have kids, so it doesn't bother them as much. For me,
it was the hair. Was it all the hair? Because you moved into a house with a woman with long hair and a dog with a lot of hair.
I don't think I really.
Because I know when we first got married, a lot of his clothes, it was just black T-shirts.
Yeah, I wore a lot
and he's
of black.
like, why does your dog shed so much? I'm like, well, she's our dog, and that's just how she's made.
Well, I don't know. There was a few things, just learning what it's like, just learning how to live together and stuff like that. Because if you don't cohabitate beforehand, you have to learn. And
surprise.
But it was. I mean, I don't think we had many problems. The socks thing. That's just because I get in bed and I hate sleeping with socks on. So
I don't like socks at all.
I've learned how to use my big toe and push the sock off of each foot, and I just do that, and then I fall asleep. And
before you go,
I don't think about it. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
setting an alarm on this phone.
do we want to do the ending question that we've done with each person that we've interviewed? The
Yes.
Do you remember? Okay, so it's very easy, but give me Give me your best impression of the hot dog guy at a baseball game. The guy who's walking around with the thing strapped around him, and give me your best hot dog man separately. Either one can go first.
Hot dogs, get your hot dogs. Hot dogs.
Hot dogs here. Get your hot dogs. I got your hot dogs here.
That's fantastic. Well, that is another episode of A Little Off the Top with your host,
Hannah.
and Noah.
And Jimmy.
And
Cheslett.
thank y'all so much for being on.
Thank
If
you
you have enjoyed this podcast, rate us 5 stars. And if they didn't like it, what do they do, Hannah?
Just ignore it.
That's right.
There's
Just
plenty
ignore
of other
it.
podcasts to listen to. Just
There's
move on.
a million out there.
I would say if they didn't like it, they should lie
yeah, that's
and
right.
give you 5 stars.
just say you enjoyed it.
Yes.
And then move on. Move on after that. Well, that's another episode, and thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.